Good morning to the Advanced Materials Conference. First of all, I would like to thank all the speakers that have accepted to be here today with us. Also, I would like to thank my colleagues, the organizers from IST from Lisbon University and FCT from Nova University in Lisbon. And also I would like to thank all the technical staff done by Sara and by João. So let's start with a brief welcome, and also I will refer to now the main objectives of this conference. As you know, advanced materials are a key component of the fourth technological and industrial revolution, as they are the basis for the development of digital, bio, and nanotechnologies. In particular, they allow supply chain efficiency, distributed and decentralized manufacturing, reduce the needs for storage, customization, and personalization of goods, increasing the resolution of the complexity of shape and functions, as well as exploiting multifunctional properties for multi-field applications. As a result, they address important societal grand challenges, such as mobility, healthcare, energy, and climate change. In this respect, we expect that policymakers and industry stakeholders to engage in this effort to foster a quantum leap in the development of new technologies and added value products, able to deploy the next generation of high-performing, cost-effective, and environmentally sustainable products and technical solutions in the areas of energy, health, transportation, and information and communication technologies. So, in terms of the agenda of today's conference, the conference is split in 4 main sessions. The first one deals with the impact of science in education and technological transformations. Section 2 on advanced materials as accelerators of the digital economy. Session 3, materials as activators and promoters of prosperity and welfare. And the last session, advanced materials towards a sustainable path. So this conference is like a seed for the advanced materials cluster in Portugal that we are planning to apply. So what do we need here? As a fact, materials are the activators of future global science and technology challenges. Thus, transformational breakthroughs in key competitive areas, whatever the field concerned, advanced materials are critical for supporting overall an eco-sustainable driven economy. Thus, for the future comfort and prosperity of Europe, and in particular of Portugal, regional and national policymakers and industry stakeholders, together with the academy, should be engaged in making this one of the driven research and innovation core lines to back up our development. In terms of the vision, we want to enable and strengthen innovation and competitiveness on the full advanced materials value chain to deliver added value products, systems, and solutions capable of boosting the economic growth by exploring a large array of sustainable materials, turning our industry and economy globally competitive. So what we have now in Portugal, we have a dispersed ecosystem centered on small regional clusters, focusing strategic pillars that enable good synergies between institutions, but with fragmented connections with the large industry and PMEs ecosystem that does not fully explore the existing potential in the country and exploit all exceptional functionalities that materials have. Even so, there is an extraordinary pool of scientific expertise and skills, a large number of traditional and high-tech companies and SMEs, and great technological competitiveness able of enabling the research towards the technological solutions necessary to deliver new knowledge and innovative industry solutions able to strengthen the competitiveness of all science and technical actors in Portugal while assessing large EU and other international markets demands. So the mission for the Portuguese material cluster is to create at the national scale a key research infrastructure in advanced materials open to the national and European researchers from both academia and industry, as well as to develop any missing services with better fit specific needs for research and technological developments. So in terms of the mission of the Portuguese materials cluster is to create at the national level a key research infrastructure in advanced materials open to national and European researchers from both academia and industry, as well as to develop any missing services which better fit specific needs for research and technological developments. Built a strong network between regions, industry, SMEs, RTOs, and academia through this infrastructure, covering all the value chain in advanced materials to deploy the next generation of high-performing, cost-effective and environmental sustainable advanced materials, products and technical solutions for the Portuguese industry. This will support the national strategy to boost the economy, competitiveness, market growth, and creation of new jobs. So the objectives of this cluster are to enable the building of a world-class ecosystem, research, academia, regions, and industry that can foster innovation and accelerate the development and deployment of cutting-edge technologies through the access of an integrated and coordinated network of advanced instrumentation covering the whole materials value chain, from synthesis to analysis to technology systems integration. Integrate the main regional and national research infrastructure across the materials value chain and consolidate a seamless, unified access. Foster a multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary approach and coordinated activities to solve key material challenges such as performance, reliability, and safety and recycling. The key areas of R&D are energy and environment, transportation, health, and information and communication technologies. So here it's an image about the type of structure that we intend to build around this advanced materials cluster with the integration of the regions, the industry, the academia, and also we want to collaborate with all these pillars that we have in place in our society. So we want to have the integration of the regions, of the industry, and of the academy. So the impact of the advanced materials cluster in Portugal and Europe at the national level creates innovation-based jobs, competitiveness and revenues, elevates the entire value chain of advanced materials in Portugal within the European landscape, creates synergies and symbiotic clusters with complementary facilities in Portugal, and accelerates science, technology and innovation of excellence for universities, RTOs, PMEs, PMS, and large industry. In terms of Europe, attracts international talent and leverages international competitiveness, creates synergies and symbiotic clusters with complementary facilities in Europe, and generates knowledge and innovation to meet the EU political priorities and to solve relevant societal challenges. So this is a little bit the structure of the advanced materials clusters that we are building, and also this conference, it will be like a seed, since we have important players in Europe that we want not only to help us and advise us and we want to learn a lot about this area, not only in Portugal, but especially in Europe. And we will have now a set of speakers for the first session, the session number 1, which is the impact of science in education and technology transformations. Due to commitments within the Portuguese presidency, our Minister of Science, Technology and Higher Education, Professor Manuel Heitor, was not able to be present today with us, but he performs a short video, and we will pass the video in the next moments.
Advanced materials, why? Actually, during the last months, the Portuguese presidency have supported conferences many topics. But I call your specific attention to this topic of advanced materials. From agro-food systems to health systems to mobility or batteries, advanced materials and the evolving nature of the way we can control advanced materials will be central to the green and digital transition. Actually, this point is particularly taken in the last Human Development Report published in December 2020, when it calls to our attention worldwide for the new geological area we are entering, so-called Anthropocene, particularly associated with the dominance of human and social relations on planet Earth. And again, will be the development of concepts associated with circular economy, which may and should drive the the development of future generations. But these do need, as you know, the adequate control, manipulation and knowledge, above all knowledge, of the materials which we live in a sustainable way. The only way to combine the increasing digitalization of our society with the challenge of the green transition is to better control and to better understand the way materials can be used in a circular and sustainable way. In Portugal, among many other European regions, we have just organized a major cluster on innovative batteries, looking place again to the circular economy from the green mining issues associated with lithium reserves to the recycling of batteries. Again, in the center of this debate is the knowledge and the control and the manipulation of advanced materials, from the atomic deposition of lithium or sodium nanoparticles to the recycling and the refinery of raw materials. And again, the knowledge of advanced materials will be critical in the next decades for Europe to win and to lead the green and digital transition. And this is not just a scientific question. This is a social question for the future generations, for the grandsons of our grandsons to have a prosperous and better future, and so that the best message we can pass to future generations is to better understanding the key role of advanced materials in the greening and digital, in the digitalization of our societies. I thank you, Elvira, Rodrigo, and all of those that have organized this conference to bringing for the debate and for the center of our recovery plan the issue on advanced materials, from fundamental knowledge to disruptive innovation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So concerning the next speaker, Dr. Maria Gabriel, she was also not, due to a last minute commitment, she was not able to join us. We still have some minutes until the next speaker, which is already online, Jean-Pierre Bourignon. In the meantime, and since we have some minutes, I don't know if my colleagues from the organization they want to add something related to the advanced materials cluster that we are building or related to this conference. So the floor belongs
I
to you.
think that we could allow Michel, that is the CEO of the KIC in raw materials, that is present, to comment the words of our minister.
Michel, you don't have, you are mute.
Michel, now you can.
Sorry. Good morning, everybody. I was effectively muted. Thank you very much, first of all, for inviting me for this conference. And effectively, we know all the importance of the advanced materials strategic importance of it in the future. EIT Raw Materials is effectively an important actor for supporting all these activities. That is evident. And we will be effectively aside you to support the development that can be done effectively in Portugal around these activities. And I'm really looking forward to see how we can develop it further. I would say for us the role of making the connections, making the links with other organizations within Europe around these thematics. And the development of the cluster in Portugal. So really looking forward to follow up this conference and of course to see how we can further develop activities together in the internationalization or Europeanization of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michel. Any other comment from our colleagues or from the attendees?
It seemed there is a comment about when you would be predicted the creation of the materials cluster.
Very soon. We have already the pillars to build up. So, and we will make the association to happen. And I think the first pillar will be launched next Friday.
So if we don't have any other question or comment, and since Jean-Pierre Bourguignon is already present, I will start and I will perform just a brief introduction about his CV. So the next speaker is Jean-Pierre Bourguignon. Professor Jean-Pierre Bourguignon is President ad interim of the European Research Council. From July last year until the next ERC president will take place. Nevertheless, he was previously the ERC president since January 2014 until December 2019. Prior to that, he was the director of the Institut des Hautes Études Scientifiques from 1994 till 2013. This international research institute located near Paris, France, was built as the European counterpart of the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton. He was also the first ERC panel chair in mathematics for starting grants. A mathematician by training, he spent his whole career as a fellow of the Centre National de la Recherche Scientifique. He held a professor position at École Polytechnique from 1986 to 2012. From 1990 to 1992, he was president of the Société Mathématique de France and president of the European Mathematical Society from 1995 to 1998. He is a former. Okay, so Professor Jean Bourguignon, since you are already present, thank you very much again for accepting this invitation and to be with us for this conference, and the floor or the screen is yours.
Thank you very much. Dear Minister Heitor, dear Manuel, dear Professor Fortunato, dear Elvira, dear Rodrigo, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased and grateful to have the opportunity to speak in the company of such distinguished panel members in the opening session of the conference set up by the Portuguese presidency dedicated to advanced materials. The topic of the first session, impact of science in education and technology transformations, is a priori a bit far from the main actions of the European Research Council, which I have the honor to chair ad interim. Let me explain why I think the formulation of the theme can be turned around in the context of the main topic of this conference in relation with the ERC main responsibilities. Set up in 2007, after a long struggle by the scientific community, accompanied by visionaries such as Minister Mariano Gago and Commissioner Philippe Busquin, the European Research Council was given the task to provide flexible, long-term funding to individual researchers who have designed ambitious projects with potentially far-reaching consequences. ERC grantees can work in any field, including the social sciences and humanities. The purpose is to give ERC grantees the freedom to develop their research. Research funded by the ERC is expected to lead to scientific breakthroughs and major advances, but it is also supposed to set a clear and inspirational target for frontier research across Europe. In this way, the ERC helps showcase what high-level science in Europe looks like. Hopefully, the possible effect is to encourage others to raise their game too. A key feature that scientists are fully aware of is that solutions can come from unexpected places. Science advances as a front. New funding in one area can open up new opportunities in different areas. This is why putting all resources into priority areas can therefore paradoxically lower the chances of achieving progress, even in those areas. Taking a broader approach with a longer-term perspective is actually essential. The pandemic provided an excellent example of what the bottom-up approach can produce. Ugo Chahine, the CEO of BioNTech, who developed the mRNA vaccine against COVID-19 with Pfizer, received an ERC grant in 2018 to explore the potential use of the novel concept of mRNA vaccines against certain forms of cancer. Professor Chahine and his wife and partner in BioNTech, Özlem Türeci, have been studying messenger ribonucleic acids, mRNA, for more than 2 decades. In an interview with the ERC website, Ugo said, "The expertise," I'm quoting, "the expertise that we gathered in cancer trials encouraged us to extend the use of mRNA vaccines towards prevention of infectious diseases. However, what has happened in the last 11 months and the impact of our research is beyond our imagination. Groundbreaking innovation requires decades of research and contributions from multiple research frontiers until it reaches maturity to provide benefit for humanity." End of quote. We believe this shows in a truly spectacular way how valuable it is to give Europa-based scientists enough freedom to explore the frontiers of knowledge. The other beauty of the bottom-up approach is the sheer diversity of research that it allows to support. The ERC is not a health program, yet it managed to contribute significantly to the development of what has proven to be one of the most effective vaccines against the scourge of COVID-19. In the area to which this conference is dedicated, advanced materials, ERC grantees have undertaken projects in the basic chemistry and physics of materials, as you might expect, but have also examined the electronic properties of materials and transport, surfaces, interfaces, and nanostructures. They have looked at new materials, including oxides, alloys, composite, organic, inorganic, hybrid, nanoparticles, nanotubes, and superconductors. And they have looked at biomaterials and intelligent self-assembling materials. This shows a multiplicity of action modes, of production processes, and also of scales, which in recent years, the newly established mastery of much smaller scales than 50 or even 20 years ago. These possibilities result from the development of sometimes radically new technologies based on newly discovered physical principles. Altogether, the ERC supported in the area of advanced materials almost 500 projects, 486 to be precise, in all types of ERC grants, starting, consolidator, advance. This represents close to €1 billion. That is nearly 5% of all funding the ERC allocated, and this fully at the initiative of researchers. In its task to organize the evaluation, one of the permanent challenges that the ERC Scientific Council faces is to follow the unabated transformation that the architecture of science undergoes due to the work and discoveries of researchers. This can take the form of a new discipline that emerges, of a new blend of knowledge that leads to a new paradigm, as it happened with the creation of graphene, for example. Such a breakthrough led to the Nobel Prize being attributed to André Geim and Konstantin Novoselov. Their projects, selected by the ERC before they received the prize, were respectively entitled, I'm quoting, Lego-style materials, structures, and devices assembled on demand from isolated atomic planes, that was for André Geim, and physics and applications of graphene for Konstantin Novoselov. Both were funded by the panel PE3, Condensed Matter Physics. As hinted by these titles, very fundamental properties were considered, opening the door to the creation of many new materials, but also to creative ways of designing them and using them. They have been followed by many others. Let me quote 2 ERC grantees in this respect. Valeria Nicolosi, who got 2 grants, a starting grant entitled, I'm quoting, Next Generation of 2D Nanomaterials, Enabling Supercapacitor Development. And a consolidated grant entitled, I'm quoting again, 3D Printing of Novel 2D Nanomaterials, Adding Advanced 2D Functionalities to Revolutionary Tailored 3D Manufacturing. And also several proof of concept grants. And also, of course, Elvira Fortunato, one of the organizers of this conference, where with her ongoing ERC project, Multifunctional Digital Materials Platform for Smart Integrated Applications. Both were funded by the panel P8, Products and Processing Engineering. At ERC, the main indication of a need to make adjustments to the evaluation structure is that the profile of applications received year after year has changed. This informs the Scientific Council of where the real frontier is in strict adherence by the ERC to the bottom-up principle. Following this logic, in the context of a broad revision of the ERC panel structure, the Scientific Council decided this year to set up a new panel entitled P11, Materials Engineering. It covers the remarkable new developments in advanced materials, performance enhancement, modeling, large-scale preparation, modification, tailoring, optimization, and novel and combined use of materials. This requires being truly open-minded. At this very exciting time, in many countries, we tend to see at work a temptation to cut back in open exploration. I think this is highly counterproductive in terms of achieving progress, especially in a burgeoning field such as advanced materials. All what I just described shows how much science is transformed by the development of technology. This gives me the opportunity to come back to the theme of the session and actually allows me to point to the impact of technology on the transformation of science. But actually, there is a further pernicious effect of this short-termism. I claim that an appropriate education impacts the development of science and, as a matter of fact, of technology. We need to remember that researchers are at the heart of the research process. We must ensure that their training does confront them with science early enough. And I mean real science, not just something one learns by heart. If one wants to hint that research provides attractive jobs for Europe's brightest talents, they must realize that they will enter a field where their creativity can be fully expressed. This can only happen if such a prospect is perceptible to them early on in the education system. Then again, we face the situation that education has an impact on science. For this, in many European countries, a real transformation is needed. And this, of course, can only happen if teachers are trained and actually permanently retrained properly. For me, this is another condition for the thriving of science in Europe. Of course, later on, it is particularly important to continue to provide opportunities to young researchers to establish themselves as independent actors with adequate means to develop their own projects. We must make sure that the most original and high caliber young researchers see a future for them here in Europe. ERC is providing a share for that, leaving full freedom to researchers to pursue their own research questions. In conclusion, I believe that the fundamental thread which links education, science, and technology is our innate curiosity and imagination. If we try to take a strictly utilitarian approach in any of these areas, then we're in danger of snuffing out the creativity, inspiration, and risk-taking on which they all depend. Let us be ambitious for Europe and unleash for creativity of the next generation of researchers. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Jean-Pierre. Also, I would like to acknowledge publicly the work that you have been done within ERC, as well as, in my opinion, and not, I guess, not only my opinion, but the ERC is the best research program in the world, supporting all fields of science. And also we acknowledge, and we especially from the area of material science, we are very grateful due to this new panel 11, that is targeting especially projects dealing with materials area. So also this is a recognition from ERC how important is advanced materials. And due to this new panel emerge, and we have now a new area for advanced materials and materials engineering. I don't know if there is any question, since we have 2 minutes until the next speaker.
Jean-Pierre, can I put a question to you? I think that, of course, ERC is supporting talent. Can you say, because so far we have topics and that could give the impression that we are living in clusters. But now I think that everyone understands that the inter and multidisciplinarity is really very important, not thinking on silos, but thinking how we can really serve broad prospects on science and technology. What do you think are the outcomes inside the ERC concerning this topic?
Thank you, Rodrigo. I think you are raising a very important question, which, of course, as you know, we do discuss in the Scientific Council extensively, because we know this is really something on which we need to be really completely proactive. Maybe my answer will have three sides quickly, because I just have 2 minutes. The first one is that indeed a number of these panels are truly already pluridisciplinary. And actually, the second point is that researchers who apply have the possibility of pointing to a complementary panel to which also some part of the evaluation should be done. And one thing we have been monitoring very, very closely with now quite substantial data is that we want to be sure that the extra opinion coming from another panel to the main panel evaluating a proposal, we want to be sure that this is has the same weight as the opinion expressed in the panel. And we noticed that it was not really the case. And as you know, we decided to add some weight, that when we look for an external view in a given panel from another panel, we will make sure it's not just one opinion which comes, but 2 opinions which come. Another thing we have been exploring, in particular in the context of the synergy grants, and I'm going to come, that's my third point, to synergy grants, is the fact that we also have the possibility that physically the panel member moves to the other panel for just a moment where the application is evaluated. Of course, the remote panels makes it a bit complicated, because people are not, you see, moving a person from one room to another is easy in a sense. Well, it requires organization, but it's doable. When everybody is online, then it becomes a total nightmare for the staff. My last point, of course, was concerning the recreation by the Scientific Council of synergy grants. And really the main motivation for the Scientific Council to recreate them was to be sure that to deal with some topics, and typically the ones closer to engineering, making sure to have a truly open space in which people from different backgrounds can prove that they work together was very important. So in a sense, we thought of synergy grants as a typical place where pluridisciplinarity can be structurally built into the system. And as you know, the evaluation of synergy grants, we took the great risk of shaping the panels after we know which proposal they have to evaluate. That is to be sure that we provide in the panel all the relevant competencies which are needed. So when we proposed at first, people said it will never work, but it's working beautifully. So it shows that this, I would say almost obsession with dealing properly with interdisciplinarity is very much present. We are monitoring things very, very closely, and we try to really identify any obstacles or any shortcomings that we have. But I hope the Scientific Council will continue to put a lot of attention to this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jean-Pierre, and congratulations again, and keep on fighting always for the best science, not only in Europe, but in the world. So now let's move to the other speaker of this session, Jean Roussac. Is a senior research fellow and scientific advisor at the Czech Academy of Sciences. He completed studies in physical chemistry and received in '87 at the Technical University Leona Marseburg the PhD. Before joined the Institute of Macromolecular Chemistry of the Czechoslovakia Academy of Sciences. In '90, he moved to TU Berlin to work with Schwarz in theoretical chemistry. In 1995, accepted a position at the Aerovsky Institute of Physical Chemistry, where after spending 1 year as visiting professor at the Institute of Molecular Science at Osaki, he is working since. Jean Roussac served 2 terms in the executive body of the Czech Academy of Sciences, and he has been appointed for 2 years Director General for Research at the Ministry of Education, Health and Sport of the Czech Republic. He is long-standing ESFRI member and currently the chair. Good morning, and thank you very much for accepting this invitation.
Good morning, colleagues. I hope you can hear me. First of all, let me congratulate you to this important and timely initiative, which is contributing to the post-COVID recovery, not only in Portugal, but it also helps economic development EU-wide. And thank you for having me here. And I really regret that I cannot meet you all in person. I would love to go and come again to Portugal and meet some of the colleagues in person. It's my great pleasure indeed to represent here and address you on behalf of the European Strategy Forum for Research Infrastructures in this panel, because I think research infrastructures are pretty much complementing the initiatives you are creating here. And since its establishment in 2002, ESFRI, as an intergovernmental advice body to the Council of European Ministers and the European Commission, has issued many initiatives related to research infrastructures, and we hope that we are contributing to support of better or even the best science in Europe, almost equally as it is done by the ERC, as we have discussed that in our earlier contribution. So ESFRI is helping research infrastructures to develop in Europe, support the different scientific areas, and the large research infrastructures have radically transformed the way how we do science. Many fundamental discoveries simply require sophisticated equipment, and the complexity of scientific problems we are solving even requires groupings, clusterings, interconnection of research infrastructures. The joint effort of member states, associated countries, the European Commission in ESFRI has also radically transformed the landscape of research infrastructures. And we look proudly back to the 55 projects and landmarks on our roadmap. These research infrastructures of pan-European relevance worth almost 20 billion euros joint investment are serving diverse research communities, not only in Europe, but also globally. Just now, we are finalizing the next update of the ESFRI roadmap 2021, and the projects were evaluated very thoroughly through a robust and transparent evaluation procedure developed by us, and the results will be made public in a dedicated event in December this year, to which I do warmly invite you all. While providing an effective mechanism to identify new investment priorities, ESFRI's ambition goes well beyond coordinating these investments, and research infrastructures play an increasing role in research, and no need to convince you about that. But we have outreach to education, and I really would like to stress that I firmly believe that research infrastructures by many ways influence the entire innovation cycle. ESFRI as a policy advice body contributes to further facilitate high quality cross-disciplinary research in all scientific domains and environment where science can flourish. We aim to create a research infrastructure ecosystem capable to respond to emergencies, to threats globally, to strengthen the social resilience, readiness, and to tackle societal challenges, but also to contribute to societal development goals and have helped to develop European research agendas, as they have been mentioned earlier by all the speakers, like digitalization or green economy. We foresee synergies between the different European and national funding resources and the related strategies and policies to maximize even the regional impact and the global outreach of research infrastructures. We try to trigger a kind of social and cultural change in the perception of research infrastructures as a very unique environment in which science-born solutions contribute to broader sectorial policies and agendas. And all this is fully in line with the ideas you are developing and discussing in this meeting. Recently, the ESFRI's vision for research infrastructures, as it is embedded in our strategy, materialized in a paper, Making Science Happen, which sets new ambitions for research infrastructures, mainly in the new European research area, but the ideas can be implemented nationally and are valid also globally. So research infrastructures are important element of the backbone of the European competitiveness and steadily contributing to European research agendas, as it has been mentioned by the Vice Rector and your Minister. We promote research infrastructures being an essential pillar of the European research area, complementing researchers' skills, abilities, and training, as it was mentioned by Jean-Pierre while speaking about the ERC. We understand research infrastructures as knowledge and innovation hubs, contributing to regional development and competitiveness. And finally, research infrastructures are also major promoters of open science and producers of high quality data, which is the new paradigm in science, and research infrastructures are very active in this area. The distinct strengths of research infrastructures is that those are natural meeting points where diverse scientific communities jointly develop a common understanding on science and verify scientific theories. Again, an idea which is, I guess, very close to the meeting, to the topic you're discussing. Research infrastructures are meeting points where basic science is challenging technologies and technical developments. Meeting points where scientific discoveries are often transformed directly to innovations. Meeting points where transversal communication creates new culture dialogue platforms and networking opportunities. Again, something which I believe is very close to the cluster you're going to create. The capability to respond to complex task requires that. All this is further amplified by concerted research infrastructure actions that go across scientific domains and often also beyond national borders. I'm sure that also researchers in the domain of advanced materials appreciate and benefit from the services one or the other research infrastructure we have in our portfolio are benefiting of that. And this concerns not only research infrastructures in physics and engineering, but globally. The main message in line with the intervention of Rodrigo Martins that is conveyed in the white paper and has been developed well before COVID, but proven very much right by the COVID pandemic, is that an healthy and sustainable, interconnected, interoperable research infrastructure ecosystem that strives for scientific excellence with impact and increases the state of readiness is a prerequisite for sustainable economic growth, for post-COVID recovery, for competitiveness of our economy, for regional development, and in broader sense for social welfare. This integrated research infrastructure ecosystem, including proper governance and interoperability framework, is the best prevention of emergencies. But it also provides support to success scenarios for new scientific developments. Advanced materials, as you are discussing it in this meeting, are certainly one of such areas that is heavily and sustainably supported by many of our infrastructures. If you wish to learn more about our ideas about further ESFRI's vision, I invite you to follow the ESFRI website if you're not doing so, to download the ESFRI white paper or another of the reports, and particularly to come to Ljubljana, where during the Slovenian presidency we will continue our discussions which started with the Portuguese presidency, and where we will launch our new roadmap 2021. Thank you for listening, and congratulations again to this very important initiative, and I wish you a successful conference.
Thank you very much for your nice presentation. And since we are a little bit delayed, I will give now the floor to Helena Pereira. As you know, Helena Pereira is the chairman of the board of directors of FCT. And I just would like to refer that FCT is the Portuguese National Funding Agency for Science, Research and Technology. So it's the best instrument we have available in Portugal in the area of science. Helena, the screen is yours. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for this kind invitation. I am honored to participate in this event and share this virtual stage with such prestigious speakers. My name, as Elvira told you, is Helena Pereira, and I am the president of the main funding agency for science in Portugal, the Foundation for Science and Technology, FCT, as we call it. Science and technology are crucial to achieve the ambitious goals and agendas put forward. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the European Green Deal, or one included in the Portuguese presidency of the Council of the European Union, the promotion of Europe's recovery, leveraged by climate and digital transitions. A combined effort of all actors in the innovation cycle is essential, and it is fundamental to assure an appropriate funding landscape, supported by policy measures to enhance robust public and private investments, not only at national or regional levels, but also at an international level. The role of research funding agencies is essential to promote excellent basic and applied science in the various domains. This is certainly the case of the Portuguese FCT, that supports science, technology, and innovation in all scientific domains, making the best use of our competitive funding instruments and supported by robust evaluation processes that are guided by international best practices. FCT funds science through research career development initiatives, advanced education projects, institutional funding to research centers and infrastructures, and also through international cooperation. New and advanced materials are certainly at the forefront of research. We want to improve the durability of products, the process efficiency with reduced energy and materials consumption. We want to substitute hazardous or hardly recyclable materials or develop functionalized and smart products. We already know how advanced materials impact at a global scale as well as on each one of us. In Portugal, we have several success cases of scientists working in this area, and I believe that this success is the result of several decades of public investment in science, which allowed a sustained growth of our system, of our science system, and the building of a competitive research community. A good example of a coordinated work in the area of materials research is the mERANET, a global, innovative, and flexible pan-European network of 50 public research funding organizations from 36 countries, including European and non-European countries. FCT is proud to participate in this network. The projects funded by mERANET combine materials research with industrial needs by stimulating new products and production processes and address, for instance, materials for low carbon energy technologies and future batteries technology and production. FCT will certainly continue to contribute to the success of such scientific domains. I wish you all a very productive meeting, and I hope to see you in Portugal very soon.
Thank you very much, Helena. I don't know if there is any question or comment since we are running out our time, but there is space for one question or comment.
Can I put two questions? I think that we heard before two relevant speakers, one connected to ESFRI, which I think is something that that is relevant to connect all the scientific community. And also we heard Jean-Pierre Bourguignon, which is the dimension of young talents, which I think we should all be proud. We heard Elena speaking about the mRNA, which is a relevant project, and what are the prospects concerning 3 points in our agenda is how to promote better and to be better representative in ERC, how we can promote infrastructures, and how we can get the involvement of FCT on this.
Okay, I don't know if this was more a comment than a question.
It is a question because we need the relevant involvement of FCT, because I think that mainly in the infrastructures, I think this is something that worries me in the future.
Well, if I may then make some comment on your comment. Yes, you are totally right. All the points you raised are important points for research at large, and also, of course, in materials research. And FCT is, as you know, already funding all these instruments, and we hope to have budgets and funding available to increase the funding, namely for infrastructures, for instance, which are a backbone in many areas, a backbone to a concerted and continued research. But let me just tell you about ERC and about, in general, our participation in European programs. We have a political decision of increasing, very much increasing our participation in European programs, and of course attract funding, more funding from these programs. We have an ambition goal, and we are all of us working together, both at FCT, but not only at FCT, also within the scientific community. And we ask everyone, especially the researchers who have been successful in having projects or grants at a very competitive levels in Europe. We ask them to promote within their colleagues, to promote initiatives of participating in European programs. And this is certainly the case of ERC. We want to increase our participation and, of course, our success in our ERC programs, and we ask everyone to help other colleagues to participate, to be candidates, successful candidates in ERC. We are in FCT. We are at the moment studying the way of giving some incentive of the people, of the researchers who have applied to ERC, and we have attained a top classification, but not had success in the funding, because, well, with all of us funds are limited. We are designing an incentive to give well some prize to these researchers. We are in that process, and with that we hope to increase the participation of our research community, of our very good and excellent research community in ERC programs.
Thank you very much. Just a last question, sorry to disturb you. We just heard our Minister, Manuel Heitor, speaking that somehow science and technology requires to look more for the social impacts. So he spoke about anthropocene, which is something that I think deals too much with him. So indeed, the prosperity of our society is just not only based on economic prospects, but how this will impact on our society, in our environment. Do you think this is something that Portugal could be a landmark concerning pushing Europe for this type of evaluations? Mm-hmm. Because this is something that is really, I know that our minister is pushing a lot, And I believe this is very important, that we have to look for ethics, responsibility, how the society will promote and engage on the evolution of science literacy for all. This is something that I think is something. Do you think that we could be a flagship in Europe for pushing for this?
Rodrigo, thank you for that question or comment. You are totally right that the social aspect of everything is important, and of course in our science the social aspect, also social dimensions of our research are very important. So we we know that, and we work and strive to have a more integrated and multidisciplinary research, especially when addressing complex problems or societal problems. In our calls, also we have in many cases advised the contribution of or participation of social sciences within projects. I have to say that we have not been very successful. So we still are in a very individual basis of research groups in a particular thematic area, working alone. So this is a challenge for us to increase this participation, this inter-domain participation, including the social dimension. And we are also working on an instrument or a project instrument that will make it necessary to include various domains, namely the social dimension. Regarding to the dissemination of science and culture, the culture of bringing science to other groups outside the scientific community, we have already a very good example, a very successful example with Ciencia Viva. FCT participates, of course, very much in Ciencia Viva. We are one of the strongest associates in Ciencia Viva, and they have done, I must say, a fantastic job of bringing science to kids, to students, and to the society in general. And this work is, of course, recognized at national level, but also at international level. And many of the exhibitions that Ciencia Viva has designed and prepared are asked and are on tour in other countries. So we have already a success in that field.
Thank you very much, Helena. And due to time, we need to stop here. I would like to thank again all the speakers of this first session. And I would like to remind you that we have now a very short break, 5 minutes, and the next session we will start at 10:45, and it will be moderated by Lars Monteleus. So thank you very much. See you soon.